Hello, everyone. Well, this is Mesha with As Long as You're Breathing, and I'm giddy, because look who's in the house with me. It is one of my best buds, Elizabeth Kipp. How you doing, Elizabeth?
I'm good, Misha. Great to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm so glad you're here. And I know we're going to be talking about the challenge of the mind and chronic pain. And you and I both have had a long history in that. And I know that both of us want people who have been dealing with chronic pain to, well, as long as they're breathing, be living in great big capital letters. All right. Well, we have somebody with us already too. So hello and thank you for joining us. We're so appreciative. Comment over in the chat. Let us know who you are. I know Elizabeth loves taking questions and engaging with the people when she's here. So Elizabeth does everything. Chronic pain expert, Kundalini yoga, trauma informed Kundalini yoga, right? Instructor. And she does ancestral clearing, and she's into so many other things that I can't begin to name them all. So I'm not going to try. I'm just going to let her take off and tell us what she wants to about herself. And for those of you who don't know her, which I can't imagine anyone doesn't, and I know. I just think that everybody knows you. And get on with our topic, the challenge of the mind and chronic pain. Thank you, Elizabeth, for being here and for putting up with the delay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Misha. Great to be here. I lived with chronic pain for over 40 years, and I was on prescription medication for 31 of those years. The doctors didn't have any other answer. And then I finally found a doctor who did have an answer. His name was Dr. Peter Prescott. He wrote this book, Conquer Chronic Pain, an Innovative Mind-Body Approach. See, yeah.
Yes.
This is his legacy because he passed away a few years ago. But he understood the nature of chronic pain, and he understood how to detox off the medication. And I walked into his pain management program with over 40 years of chronic pain, and I walked out 52 days later with no pain at all.
Yes.
So, and I wasn't like I was some special aberration. He had a 94% success rate in the program and took thousands of people through it. So, you can heal from chronic pain is the thing. So I'm a chronic pain management specialist, trauma trained and yoga informed addiction recovery coach, Ancestral Clearing Practitioner, yoga and meditation teacher. That sounds like a lot of things. I also do bilateral EFT tapping. Sounds like a lot of things, but they're all under the hat of chronic pain management, stress management, right? All those things help to deal with stress management. Mm-hmm. Today, I thought it would be helpful to talk about the things, the mind, the challenge of the mind, and how that blocks our ability to heal.
Yes.
Now let's, for the listeners who are not aware, chronic pain is not just physical. Chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Any pain, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial. The brain can't tell the difference between one kind of pain and the other. It all sends the same signal. It hurts. Yes. So the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart.
Yeah.
The brain can't tell the difference between a laceration and a grief experience. It's all the same thing, lasting for 3 months or more. Why is that? How is chronic pain different than acute pain? Chronic pain creates more negativity in the brain, which we'll talk about in a moment, which shows up in the mind. And it can show up as a feeling state of just kind of heaviness and tension, and the physical body has its own version of negativity. Right. And also there's a lot of brain fog, and memory loss. Yes. I don't remember what I just did. I can't think clearly. Those things happen.
Yes.
I'll tell you, I had the hippocampus, the part of the brain called the hippocampus, is affected by the chronic pain experience, and it's affected by the medication. I was given opiates and benzos, and they both, all three of those things, the chronic pain and the opiates and the benzodiazepines, all kind of interact in this negative way, right? So one of the things that I had was I had short-term memory loss. By the time about 2 years before I went into Peter's program, Dr. Peter's program, I could watch a movie and then go to bed and get up the next day and watch it again as if it was new, because my short-term memory was so shot, right?
Whoa.
Yeah. So, but what was interesting was that all came back to me by the time I left his program.
Great.
It all came back. So you can heal from this stuff, which is remarkable. But anyway,
Yes.
So the things that I teach now are things that I learned either from Dr. Peter Prescott, or I learned or from John Newton, who does the Ancestral Clearing. He's a John Newton of healthbeyondbelief.com. He did the Ancestral Clearing piece. Yoga, like I've sat in front of lots of different teachers of yoga. So there are things that I learned from people that really kind of knew how to work with this stuff. And so I have a personal experience with how to work them, so to make them successful. And that's what I teach now. So.
And you do a wonderful job of it, by the way. Just got to say, you do that too. A wonderful job.
Thank you. So today I wanted to talk about how the mind, the things that we say to ourselves about our chronic pain experience, actually block our healing. As I said, chronic pain is a disease of the brain. We may have had an original insult to an area of the body and experienced acute pain, but when that pain lasts for 3 months or more, it's become chronic, and the change in the brain changes how it operates because of it. The problem is no longer at the site of the initial damage. The problem now is in the brain and how it processes. So it was interesting in my experience, because that was not really the approach the doctors took, not understanding the nature of chronic pain at the time. They kept looking at my back, and they just assumed it wouldn't heal. And so that's an important assumption. They assumed I wouldn't heal. They never asked, why isn't Elizabeth healing? They just assumed I wouldn't. So that's a very powerful belief to sit with.
Yes.
Not even honest, really. Better answer would have been, I don't know, rather than you won't, right? Because science is probabilities. It may not. It's not facts, black and white. It doesn't work like that. So it's just a note to the audience. There's a phenomenon termed a negative expectancy that occurs in someone with chronic pain. That term is negative expectancy. It refers to an accentuated negative bias, so more negativity in the brain. We experience this physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Our beliefs about our experience feed the system too. And I've identified 10 different P words that really paint this picture of the negativity that we get into: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. These beliefs, these things are all lies we tell ourselves about pain and our experience of it.
Okay.
These beliefs and their consequent behaviors, things that the belief and the behaviors that we build around them, help lock in and feed our pain experience away from healing and towards more distress. Number 1, private. We perceive our pain as private since we cannot share our experience.
Isn't that the truth? That was the problem I had with the chronic, with the work I did in chronic pain, is everyone felt like no one can understand it. I can't, and I'm like, well, no one's going to understand if you won't communicate about it, if we don't talk about it. And so, yes, we get in our heads that it's ours alone. We can't explain it. No one else is going to get it. It becomes such a private. I saw so many people, it's almost like a private badge of honor almost. It's, I'm in this all by myself. It's just me. And no, you're not. You're creating that it's just you. So that was absolutely.
I'm going to push up against that. That's partially true, but that's not the truth. That's not the full truth.
Okay.
The truth is, I can't share my experience with you.
Oh, that's true. You can't. No one else can feel it. That's true.
That's why we become so isolated. Yeah, I can share with people, but they're not going to get it because
they don't get it if they're
not.
But if we don't talk about it, they won't either, though. That was the thing.
I know. I haven't gotten to that. I'm not really talking about that part.
Yeah.
Right. But while we're there, I'll say this is why I wrote this book, The Way Through Chronic Pain.
Right.
Tools to Reclaim Your Healing Power. Because I wanted to talk about the real voice of a chronic pain patient.
Right.
What people usually hear from a chronic pain patient is complaining all the time or nothing.
Yes.
And that's not accurate. What's really happening inside a chronic pain patient is very different, and I wrote about it in this book. So
right, you did, and that is absolutely it. We can't be a voice of complaining all the time, but we can't be silent either. We have to speak. We need to speak. We need to share.
So in our ability, in our perception of this chronic pain experience being private, we disconnect from our family, from our friends, from whatever higher power we have, and from ourselves.
Yes.
We create our own private prison when we do this.
Yes. And
paradoxically, though we may not realize it at the time, we hold the key to that prison.
Exactly.
To the lock, right? So private. Second, personal. We take pain personally.
Yeah.
Because chronic pain steals our attention away from everything but itself. We can see it as an invader. Yeah. It invades our personal space and touches us deeply where we live, consciously inside the body. Because of this, we forget we're spiritual beings having a human experience and witnessing pain. Instead, we identify with the pain and our thoughts about it. Unfortunately, when we lose our ability to distinguish our pain from our true self, we feed the pain experience even more. Yeah,
this becomes self-perpetuating. Yeah.
Well, we get very confused about we identify with the pain, and then we're off to the races because now we've locked ourselves into this is who I am.
This is who I am. That's right.
This is what I'm experiencing. There's a huge difference, right?
Right.
Third one, pervasive. We believe our experience of chronic pain is pervasive because, again, chronic pain steals our attention away from everything but itself. Its penetrating nature is made even more apparent because we cannot share our experience of pain and because we take it personally. Yeah. So pervasive is the result of private and personal. Right? Next, powerful. We perceive pain as almost incredibly powerful. Yes. To the point where we deny our experience of it. Totally guilty for that one. I used to just I'm not feeling this. It's not that bad, right? It's not that bad, right? I used to just minimize to the point of almost denial to the extent that I could.
Yeah, and push through until you, it's exhausting. Yes.
No matter how hard we try to resist the pain, which was I excelled at that. Fight, deny, turn away, or numb the pain. Our actions feed the pain even more because we're giving away our power to the pain. Yeah. So these are profound.
Yes.
Next, problem. We take on chronic pain as a problem to be solved. Yeah. We try and figure out our situation and so spend our time locked in the mind. Yeah. We forget to simply be, yet being is one of the most powerful and effective healing modalities we can use. In trying to solve the problem with the logical mind, we miss the answer altogether. We've ceded the territory of our chronic pain experience to the battlefield of the analytical mind, vacating the very source, capital S, of our healing.
Yeah. We go to the mind and forget that there's There's something else. Yes.
The mind becomes the master on the throne instead of the servant.
Yes,
Right?
exactly.
Next, persistent. Persistent. Chronic pain is persistent, if anything. We learn to be at least as persistent or more. The problem here is that our belief that the pain is interminable is that the belief alone feeds our suffering.
Yeah.
So when we believe that it's going to last forever, it does, right?
Yes.
So very important. What are we believing, right? Is it true?
Right.
Is it absolutely true?
Right.
And who would you be without that belief? Right?
There's the other thing. Yeah. Well, who am I when I stop believing this? What am I? It's become so pervasive. It's become what we are. And so yeah, it's become our identity. So who am I if I let go of this? That's huge.
Then progressive. We view the chronic pain experience as one that is both continuous, persistent, and progressive. We become so hooked by the pain and its negative expectancy that we convince ourselves that it will increase in duration and intensity, and this adds to the suffering and will actually increase the intensity of the suffering. It's just, right?
Absolutely.
It's like this perpetual motion machine that's like a snow accelerating, right? Like a big snowball, going downhill. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Because even if you have a moment you're feeling better, then you're like, well, this can't last long. I mean, it's like the other shoe's going to drop. You're
when's it going to happen? When is it coming back?
When's it coming back? Yeah.
Yeah.
When's it going to be worse again? Yeah.
That's part of the nature of chronic pain, is to become hypervigilant. The stress response is out of balance, and part of the stress response being out of balance is this. When is it going to? I'm always on the lookout.
Sure.
When's the other shoe going to drop? I'm always on the lookout, and that's something I've had to actually unwind in my recovery. It's been interesting to just breathe, and it's okay, and it really is okay, and it's okay now too.
Right. It's still okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So next, projection. We project our fears into the pain experience because of the negativity we feel. We project about our future, fearful that it will be the same or worse, like we were saying. This is another aspect of our beliefs in the experience of chronic pain that leads to more pain.
Yes, it does.
Right? Then perpetual. Another negative expectancy is the pronounced tendency to ruminate and so believe the pain is ongoing and everlasting. Mm-hmm. So you see the corner that we paint ourselves into.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just the more energy we send into it, the more of that we get back. And it's just one P after another.
Yeah. So one of the most profound things that Dr. Peter Prescott ever said, and it was one of the first things he said, he really got my attention, was he said, "What are you doing to contribute to your pain?" And I was like, dude, you're sitting in a room with 20 other chronic pain patients, and you just laid down fighting words. You're looking to get killed in this room?
Absolutely.
I was like, it's not my fault, because I was coming from and thinking everybody else thought that. It's not my fault. The pain's doing it to me. Mm-hmm. So I thought people would, I was just going to sit there and listen, but I was like, dude, you just laid out, like, how could it possibly been my fault? Well, you know what? Within about 2 minutes, I realized, oh, look at what I'm doing to myself, right? So I'm not saying that there wasn't a physical reason for the pain in the beginning. Actually, it's physical and emotional. But why is the body not healing?
Why is the body not healing?
That's what we're addressing here. Why is the body not healing? That question the doctors didn't ask. The other doctors didn't ask because they assumed I wouldn't. We never got to why is it not healing? We never got to the meat, to the bone, right?
Right.
Permanent is another one of the P words. We can become so lost in our fears and feelings of powerlessness in the chronic pain space that we lose hope and feel that it will become our permanent state. This is the most dangerous lie of all. Remember, I said all of these were lies.
Right.
You can see how our reactions to chronic pain are predicaments. Feed it. Chronic pain is its own kind of addiction. We can become trapped in its web of lies. We get locked in its negative spin, and if left unchecked, we can end up in hopelessness and believe we are doomed to live a life of suffering. This is the biggest lie we can buy into, because you can heal from chronic pain. It's not a life sentence. We must believe more in the power of the body to heal than in the power of our illness. This alone provides us the leverage to open our minds to solutions that we've not been able to access before. And in this, we shift into the momentum of healing. So I'll go through the P words just one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Private, personal, pervasive, powerful, problem, persistent, progressive, projection, perpetual, and permanent.
That's a lot of P's.
Yeah, and there you have it. But it's what we do,
Yeah.
right? And it's a choice.
It is a choice.
And it's the battlefield of chronic pain is in the mind. It's not in my back, which is where my physical problem was, is in my back. It's not there. It's up here. Yeah. So, anybody have any questions?
We still have our guest. They're still here, but no questions so far. So I did put up the healthyonbelief.com for the ancestral clearing.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
I did put that up.
Well,
yes.
You can come to me too. You can put my website in, elizabeth-kipp.com.
Right. I have it to put up here at the end. So
I do ancestral clearing as well.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Anyway, so yeah, I learned from John. John's the only one that teaches. It's a trademark process.
So all these modalities you do, how do they help get us out of all these P's?
Well, I can start with ancestral clearing.
Sure.
Some of the belief that we have isn't necessarily ours or didn't start with us.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to think. It's been a while since I've cleared so much stuff. I'm just trying to think of what I started with. I had a well, you call it low self-esteem, but I would take it a step further and call it low feeling of low self-worth, like I didn't have value. Now that's interesting, because the way I was raised, which was the way my parents were raised, and going
their parents,
right. As a woman, was I can remember as soon as I could walk with stability and get stuff from my parents, that's what I did. I started serving and working. Mm-hmm. And so my value, because there was this constant, Liz, go do this, Elizabeth, go do that kind of thing. And of course, there was no saying no to that. We didn't say no in my family, or you get walloped.
Right, absolutely.
We got walloped even otherwise, but you get walloped worse if you didn't. Anyway, so my thing was like, I don't have value unless I'm doing something. My value is based on how much I get accomplished in a day. Hence, pushing through.
Absolutely, that's me too. If I'm not accomplishing,
that's right.
If I'm not accomplishing, I'm not worth anything.
That's right.
You nailed me.
yeah, but it's so many of us, and it's not. It didn't. Yes, it got conditioned into me, but it started long before me.
Sure.
And hear this: the egg that was me and you, right, was in our grandmother, right? It was in our mother, but it was in our grandmother first. So she carried, that's how it works, right? And then the egg that was my grandmother was in her grandmother. Right. And it goes on back that way. So the egg itself is carrying the the vibrational energy of this stuff that's not getting resolved in the lineage. Oh, I'm only valuable if I only have value if I work, if I'm doing. And remember, I said we have to be.
We have to be.
right?
I think many people would not be aware at all of what you're saying about the egg and the
That's why I said it.
generations back. Yeah,
That's why
I
I said
think
it.
that's going to probably some people are like, what did she just say? So maybe
Yeah.
say that again. Some
Oh, I
people are
will.
like,
Yeah.
what? Say that again. What did she just say?
So the egg that was me,
Hmm.
right, was in my mother's ovary, but it was in her mother's ovary first. It's just the way we are, right?
Hmm.
So it's just the way the biology works. So all the stuff my grandmother felt and my mother felt gets transferred into the egg that's me. This it's like a frequency. It's like an energetic frequency. Right?
Absolutely. Hmm.
But here's the thing that connects it all. The egg that was my grandmother was in her grandmother's egg. So I'm in my grandmother, and my grandmother's in my grandmother's egg. And so you see the link all the way back. It's this
Right.
tumbling domino thing. And when I put that together, I have this science background, and I always have to have something rooted. I can't just sit in the woo woo. It's gotta be rooted in the ground for me to get it.
That's the
And,
yogi in you too.
well,
It's got to
that's
be
true.
grounded.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got to be
that's right.
grounded.
Absolutely. So
Absolutely.
it was very important for me to get how does this work exactly? Because I can understand it kind of conceptually, but I needed to land in the body to this truth, right? And when I heard that, I was like, oh, I get that. That makes so much sense.
I can handle that. That makes sense. Well, and
Yeah.
it does make sense. But yes, yes. Okay. So go ahead. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So that's just an example of we don't value ourselves unless we're doing, and when we do, we're missing the being. And part of calming the mind from chronic pain is sitting and being. Meditation's the most powerful part of calming the mind from a chronic pain experience. Why I teach it, and I teach a couple of different kinds of meditation because it depends on who's sitting in front of me as to which one I'm going to pull out. Some people, the problem with meditation with people, especially because a chronic pain patient has a history of trauma, unresolved trauma. And so you're dealing with that's why I did the trauma training. So you're dealing with a stress response that's unbalanced, and a vagus nerve that's dysregulated. And so I ask clients, the first thing I do with a client is an ancestral clearing, because to help them release stuff that's not theirs, that they're carrying that's not theirs, or it's unnecessary. And then I ask them if they can sit still. And sometimes people can't sit still. And so I'll do an ancestral clearing around like things like anytime anyone was told sit down and shut up, right?
Oh
Who
my God.
wants to sit still when that's in their nervous system, right?
I
That kind
heard
of
that
thing.
so many times. I've
Yeah.
heard that
So
so many
we
times.
do the clearing for that, but also we also teach them tools to help calm the nervous system enough so that it can sit still, because sitting still is also the freeze response, and you want people to be engaging in the parasympathetic, not the sympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is the part that's active, and in terms of fight, flight, freeze, shut down, or just active. There's another level of that that's just kind of active and watchful, right?
Mhm.
So we want to make sure that the person that's healing from chronic pain has a history of unresolved trauma, that they're not sitting in a freeze response when they're sitting still, that their nervous systems aren't doing that. So a lot of times I'll take them into a moving kind of meditation. So the
Right.
body's moving, but in a very specific way. So it's moving in a calm way. Right.
Hmm.
There's a little art to it, right? Anyway. So so you were asking me what do I do with people? How do we clear from this stuff? Yeah. So ancestral clearing, meditation, directed movement. Like that's why I do the yoga piece. Qigong is also amazing.
Hmm.
Tai Chi is amazing. All these mindful movement practices are very helpful. I particularly I like yoga and qigong. Those are, and I've done tai chi too, and that's awesome too. But they all have their benefits, right?
Right.
And what else? Yoga, meditation, chanting, that's part of the vagus nerve. So there's a lot of stuff just around regulating the vagus nerve.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to work with that, but you also need to really be clear about the mind. And it's very helpful to sit with someone else like you or me that's had chronic pain, that's kind of on the other side of it, and is able to spot, oh, you have this belief here and look how it's working for you. Now, is that what you want? Is that, you realize that's a choice that you have?
Right.
So like I have a friend, I was just talking to someone earlier today, who has a tendency to stay in sadness and depression.
Mm.
She tends to stay in sadness with her thoughts, and it leads to depression.
Leads to depression, sure.
That's the negative mind bias that I was talking about earlier, right? Now, her work has been to bring joyful experiences into her, joy and gratitude into her life.
Yes.
And so now her practices, she's got kind of half and half. She's got like half the things I do in the day are things I like, and half of the things I do in the day are things that I don't prefer so much, but have to get done. Then I challenged her and said, well, like I have to do the dishes and I have to scrub the floor and I have to, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
sure can be mundane. But I said years ago, I'm the kind of person like, what's next? So while I'm in the middle of doing something, I'm thinking like, what's the next thing? So
Me too.
That will drive anybody crazy.
It will.
It's not good for the nervous system. You miss the present moment. You jazz the nervous system up.
Right.
It's not really optimal living. So I challenged her and I said, so when I do the dishes, I dive into I know that I have to do the dishes before I do the next thing. So there's no point in like stretching about the next thing because I'm doing this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is to actually dive in, right? Presence myself in the water and the soap and the dishes and the scrubbing and the sponge and the whole whatever, the washing and the rinsing and the stacking and just that becomes a meditation.
Absolutely.
Mindfulness. Mindfulness. Right?
You're totally present there.
Oh, am I getting every bit? I'm whatever the thing is. What am I pressure of my hand on the floor, right? And the sponge or the mop or whatever you're working with, right? The
fully experiencing it.
That's right.
The tactileness of it, the whole experience.
Yeah.
Embodying the experience.
That's right. You get into it. You embody and focus right in there. You'd be surprised how fast that work gets done. and how calm the nervous system is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I challenged her. Oh, I do half the things I do in the day I love, and half the things I do I don't love. And I'm like, well, the things you don't love particularly, if you could do them in a mindful way, you might find it to be a different experience.
Right. Because there is something about it that it does become meditative is the only word I know too, what you're saying. Mm-hmm. But you don't realize even that it's happening. You're like, how did that happen? I used to really not like doing that. And I don't know that I can say I like it anymore, but I find some sort of peace in doing it. And then you no longer think about it in a negative sense. It becomes kind of a neutral place. It's not like you love it and you can't wait to do it, but you become neutral about it. There's no intense reaction to, oh, I don't want to do it, et cetera, et cetera. There becomes a calmness to it.
Beautiful. So if you think of the duality, like, dislike, craving, aversion, right? That's a line and it's very unstable.
It is.
What's the third option? Then we're making a triangle. The third option is neutral.
Yeah.
Right. So if we can sit in that neutral space in the midst of the like, dislike, right, then we've got the most stable shape that we know.
The three, right? The three, that's the most stable shape there is. I've had this conversation so many times lately in different ways, but it is because one plus one by itself is one. That's all the power there is in that. One plus one equals two, or one plus one comes together and equals one. But if we have one plus one, yet we make a third out of it, that's become exponential. So we have exponential power then. And so that's why the stabilization of the three. And so, yeah, when we can put things into the third dimension of it, when we can add that to it, we stabilize it, and that is, and that's what I've had to do with like moving forward with things that are like not in my comfort zone, out of my wheelhouse, not is I've had to, okay, so it's not what I want to do. It's not how I want to do it. It's not, but if I can put that into a space where I put all of myself into it, just like you're saying about doing the dishes or whatever, it's not, and then you can focus and you can actually get it done. That's how you get it done. You're telling yourself you can't because, well, I don't like it. I don't. And we lose our focus on it. And so we don't get it done. But then when we take it to that other place, that neutral place, and we're just there and experience it and just put the energy behind doing it, all of a sudden it's done. We stabilized that situation. So
yeah, it's our dislike. It's our, I don't like this. So I that's when we start resisting.
We resist.
And then we've got to, then we're off to the races with a problem and chronic pain.
Yes.
So it's like, how do I drop the attitude? And
Yeah.
why do I have an attitude? And that's where ancestral clearing comes in. Like, oh, well, if you've got issues around, say, manual labor, maybe you got hassled as a kid. Maybe every time that, you did something wrong, they made you go out and do some manual, who knows? There's all kinds of stories around why somebody would feel
right.
uncomfortable around manual labor. Maybe somebody had an accident while they were doing something, and then they made it mean that anytime I do things with my hands, I'm in danger. Who knows? There's all kinds of things.
Sure.
The thing is, we need to understand the beliefs that are sitting under the I don't want to.
Right.
That's the thing.
And not label ourselves with I can't do that or I don't like doing it or any of that, but just find the underlying cause. As you said, it can be fixed, it can be cured. Don't believe it can't. Don't just accept that it is. Find the underlying cause and manage the underlying cause, which in what you're doing is the clearing of that energy, the ancestral clearing.
And balancing. In yoga, we balance it, or we will clear negativity. It's a beautiful way. There's lots of ways to clear negativity in yoga. I love to combine yoga and ancestral clearing. That's kind of a fun thing to do. It's kind of a 1-2 punch the system. But we're going for not the like or dislike. We're going for that neutral space where we're noticing everything or witnessing everything, but we're not caught up in it. We're not hooked by it. Right. So some of those are kind of advanced teachings, but they're all very practical.
Well, and that is the thing. Something can be advanced, but at the same time, we can take it down to the practical, which is it's what we have to do, or people don't see why to do it if we don't bring out the practical point in it. Like a lot of people who aren't interested in things like we're talking about, like yoga, and especially a lot of chronic pain people are like, how's that going to help me? I just want my pain to go away. And so we have to take it
that's
to
an issue right there.
Yeah, we have to take it. Well, it is, but we have to take it to the practical. Yeah, go ahead and go with that issue. I just want the pain to go away. Go ahead and run with that one.
Well, practical. If it's not practical, then I don't feel like it's not in my wheelhouse.
Right, it's not a value.
It has to be. It's got to be. You got to be able to, like I said, ground. Practice got to be grounded and practical for me to bring it into
right,
for it to make sense. The wanting it to go away is part of the problem. I could have added another P word in there. If I could figure out what the P word would be.
Yeah, I don't know what it'd
The
be either,
problem there
but
is that we're having an argument with our present moment experience.
we are.
So that would be the P word, present moment experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that a lot. And sometimes I still do it. It's an old pattern. So
Sure.
it will assert itself when I'm not being conscious. Right? It just, something will happen and, oh, here I am again. Right. So that's an important thing to understand. Oh, I'm trying to get rid of it. Well, that's good luck with that. The more you push against something, the more it's going to grow, right? Where our attention goes, our energy flow. Where our energy flows, our
attention goes. Yeah.
right? The energy
Yeah,
flows
brings
where
it
our
back.
attention goes.
Yeah.
So if we're putting our attention on getting rid of it, we're going to get more of that,
Yes.
right? If we put our attention on how do I find peace in this moment, that's a very different question.
Then we get peace.
How can I have peace if I have all this pain, right? I'm going to spend 4 minutes on this, the cycle of suffering. Let's see if I can find it in my book. It's what we do, and the only reason why I know about it is because I caught myself doing it. I was like,
Sure.
oh, I'm doing this thing, and I'm gonna it's and I called it the cycle of suffering because it was exactly what I was doing. So there's this cycle that we get into, and I call it the cycle of suffering. And it's the cycle of disconnection, isolation, judgment, attachment, control, and resentment. I'll say it one more time. Disconnection, isolation, judgment, attachment, control, and resentment.
Yeah.
So we have a chronic pain experience, and we find ourselves, as I said in the beginning, we find ourselves getting disconnected because we can't share our experience. And then we become isolated. And then we judge our experience as bad, right? And then we're attached to the experience. We're attached to the chronic pain, right? Now we're in relationship with it. And because we're in relationship with it and because we don't like it, we try and control it. But we can't control it because it's kind of got us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we get a resentment. We get angry. And then we get more disconnected and we get more isolated and we get more judgment. Oh, now it's really got me, right? More attachment, more control, more resentment, and it's this downward spiral.
A downward spiral. Exactly. That's what I was doing. Was the downward. I was doing the downward spiral. So
yeah.
So how do we spiral out of that, Elizabeth?
So there's an upward spiral.
Yeah. How do we spiral up?
You have to understand you're doing this to yourself.
Yeah, which nobody wants to hear. We don't want to ever hear that.
You're not disconnected. You're always connected. Grace is always there. You're always connected. You can't disconnect from the field, the field of consciousness, the energetic. You can't connect even if you want to. You can't disconnect even if you wanted to. So that's not true. That disconnection is just in the mind, right?
Yes.
And we need to learn to drop our judgments.
Yes.
Right? So we're judging our experience as bad. Well, that's because you judged it to be so. If you just judge it, oh, pain is part of healing. That's a completely different perspective, right?
Entirely different.
Nobody told me that when I was a kid. Everybody said, oh, you have pain? We're going to rush. All the adults would rush when somebody got hurt, and like try and stop the pain as soon as possible. So very different message, right?
Very different.
So drop our judgments and understand that we have a relationship with pain, and you're not going to win. When you try and control it, you're not going to win.
No.
You need to just okay, this is what I'm feeling in this moment. And find peace with that. Everything changes. You kind of have to understand that all movement in the universe is the same wave. This is hard to do because it's backwards.
I know.
It starts here, and then it's got a wave, and then it goes down. And so our experience is going to start here, and then it's going to whoop, and then it's going to go down.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever you're feeling right now, you may think it's intense, but it's going to change.
It's
And
going
just
to change.
understand that that's just kind of like this constant.
Right.
And then the part about identity, who are you identifying with anyway, right? So that's the positive cycle. That's the, that's the positive cycle of healing. That would be the cycle of healing versus the cycle of suffering. So those are the, I hope that made sense. Anyway,
Oh, it did. Yeah,
that was 4 minutes. That was 4 minutes on that.
Well, because we choose what we identify with. I mean, and all of this goes back to kind of like, I think it was Einstein that says, well, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. It's what it has to do with choice. It has to do with belief. It has to do with what we identify with.
Where's our attention?
Where's our attention? That's right. Where's the energy going to? Where are we putting the energy to? Are we putting it to the, no, it's never going to get better? Or are we putting it to, yes, there's healing to be done. There is a healing to be done. There is just accepting that there's, as you said, that whatever this is right now, it can't last. It's energy. It's going to move. It's going to change. Just opening yourself up to that and accepting that as the paradigm instead of it is this, therefore it is that. If you accept, well, it is this, but it's going to change. Well, that alone gives you a shift right there. So it is perception. It is choice of how we perceive, how we think of things, how we interact with it. It is perception. It is choice. Yes.
It's important that we understand that we have to believe more in the power of the body to heal than in the dis-ease that we're experiencing.
Right.
And the infinite intelligence that lives in every cell of the body. We really have to understand that. It's difficult when we're born with the culture saying pain is bad. We have to get rid of it as soon as possible. But when the fact is that pain is part of healing. And so the training, the conditioning that I wish I had was pain is part of healing. Learn to accept it. Right. And it's not about pushing through. It's about accepting and loving yourself through. It's not about pushing. There's no pushing here. There's loving and acceptance and gratitude for, oh my God, look at how the body heals. It's a very different perspective. Anyway, so that's the challenge of the mind in chronic pain as of March 10th, 2022, according to Elizabeth Kipp and Meisha Krussup.
Well, I think, I think you said it beautifully. We have this point in time that we're at, and what's happening is what's happening. And the acceptance of that, and then the acceptance of all the P words, which just keep us locked into that, versus the openness to possibility. I guess that's the P word that we're saying. Look at the possibility. Look at the energy is going to move. Look at the other alternatives to it, because neither of us are denying that there was a beginning to the pain. There was a reason why the pain started. We're talking about staying in that pain and the different way we look at it, so that we actually do come out of it. That we're not stuck in it, So no one who's gone through chronic pain, none of us are saying bad you. We're not labeling, or no one did anything wrong or any of that. It really is a matter of coming to the level of consciousness of understanding how to deal with it the way we're saying. I mean, it really is about level of consciousness. It's because I know so many people who are in chronic pain who, when they hear people like us say the things we're saying, they do take it personal, as you said, and it becomes, they're labeling me as, no, we're not labeling anyone. It is a matter of coming to that point of understanding of it and dealing with it in a different way.
That's right. Yeah. What are you doing to contribute to your pain?
What are you doing to, right?
What a powerful statement. My goodness.
A powerful statement. Yeah. And I would have been afraid for him too. I would have been afraid of what was going to happen to him in that moment. Because
the reason why it's so powerful is because in that moment, I went from victim mode, the pain's doing it to me, to, oh my God, and empowerment to empowerment. Oh my God, there's something I can actually do to change this experience.
There's something I can do.
Yeah.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
That is
Versus,
it.
I'm stuck here. The very difference, a very, very empowering question. And the other question, when I'll leave it there, is who would you be without the story of your pain?
That's a major one. And that was, yeah, that's one that got me too, is I would be like, okay, I've been this for so long. What am I without it?
That's right.
And I was aware of thinking that. And that bothered me because I'm like, you can't think that way. If you think that way, well, you choose what you're going to be. Don't get locked into who will I be without this, but who do you want to be? I mean, what do you want to be? Do you want to be this, or do you want to be
Well,
something
we,
else?
we, we have to work on our attachment to the pain and our identify
Identity,
with it.
right?
We're not that. We're experiencing it, but we're not it. And there's a difference. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yes,
much for
thank you. Thank
letting me
you.
come
Thank
on
you.
today and spend some time with you.
Yeah, it's
and
good
your
to see you
audience.
too.
And,
Yes. I'm glad we had them with us the whole time. They're still here. Thank you for being with us. I think we have April's topic picked out. Do you remember what it is?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either, but
put it in the messenger.
I'd have to go back and look too. Well, you're gonna have to go back and look for me, or we'll just pick another one. But all right, thank you so much, Elizabeth, and for our guest here that was with us the whole time. Thank you for being with us. And of course, Elizabeth will be back next month. We'll have another amazing topic. If you have questions, though, feel free to go ahead and post them. We'll watch for the questions and get them to Elizabeth if you do. But until then, know that as long as you're breathing, we both believe everyone should be living in great big capital letters.